Hi, it's Kathleen from Bailey Academy, mom of five, homeschooling three of them, ages 9, 12, and 16. Today I'm hosting, I'm not hosting. I'm participating in a collab with Stephanie from Schulte's Sweeties about grandparents and homeschooling. So first I wanted to talk about my experience with our grandparents and homeschooling, and then I'm going to introduce you to my kid's grandma, and then I'll wrap it up. And I'll remind you. At the end of the video, or in the description box, there's a link to Stephanie, but there's also a link to the playlist where you can see other homeschool YouTubers who are talking about grandparents and homeschooling. So don't forget to check that out. Okay, so this is we've been homeschooling since the beginning, like January of 2022. So that's last half of 2022, all of 2023, and this we've been doing it for a year and a half. This is working on our last half of the second year, I guess. Technically, though, I homeschooled when my older two were preschool and age, and then we ended up deciding not to homeschool, which I now regret, and we just started homeschooling again because of many different reasons. I'll get into it in another video. So anyways, my husband's parents are not alive, but my parents are around, and they have been very supportive of homeschooling. Even though I wasn't homeschooled and nobody we knew homeschooled, they were very supportive of our choice and have been very helpful in as much as they can. So my father, he's supportive, but he doesn't like to have a role in our homeschool. But my mother, so my children's grandma, has come and helped and even run classes for me. So what we did last year was she decided to take on SEL, which is social emotional learning, which is like mindfulness, character traits, emotions, that sort of thing. And so she planned classes, she prepared resources, she brought them over on certain Fridays, and she ran a class. And then sometimes she would leave right away, and sometimes she would join us for the rest of the day. And so that was great because that was something off my plate that I didn't have to do, and she took care of it. Now, not every grandparent might have the time or lives close enough to do that, so I'm going to go over later some other ways that grandparents can help, but that's what we did. And now this year, we decided that she doesn't have the time necessarily to pick a certain subject and come over and run a class, but I showed her what subjects we're going to be learning, and I asked her which one she either had activities for that we could use, because she's a Girl Guide leader, so she has lots of activities, and also anything she wanted to join us for. So like when we're learning women's history, she said she might be interested in coming and sitting in on some classes. So she'll be here as support and backup and able to help us out. If there's a certain activity I would like her to run, I can ask her, and if she wants to, that's up to her. But we haven't finalized, since we just started the homeschool year, exactly when and what she's doing. So that is how she's supporting us. Now I would like to introduce you to her. So I'm going to cut to a clip that I had her record.
Hi, my name is Barb. I'm grandma to the Bailey Academy children. I love that my daughter is homeschooling, and I love being able to be a part of it. I've always had wanted to be a teacher.
And I'm back. So that is grandma. And also I wanted to just mention that even though this is a video about grandparents, my children's uncle, my brother, has also come and done classes about music with them. So you don't have to limit it to just grandparents helping out. If you have other family members who are supportive and who want to teach a class or even help you with a lesson or anything, that would be great too. It doesn't have to be just grandparents. So how can how can your children's grandparents participate in your homeschool? So one is they can teach a class. If there's something that they know about, especially if it's something that you're not as good at, maybe you're not good at math, but your parents are, or you're good at math, but you're not good at science, but your parents are, especially if they, have a degree in something, but they certainly don't have to, just like you don't have to have a degree to be a homeschooler. So if they just have a knack for knitting and you want to teach your kids knitting, grandma, great, come on and help. Grandpa works with computers, come on, grandpa, teach a computer class. Grandpa loves sports, he can come teach some sports. Doesn't have to be anything specific. It can be even doesn't be a specific subject that is typically done in school. Like I said, knitting is not typically done in school, But absolutely, if you have the stereotypical grandma who likes to knit, have her come teach knitting. But if you have a grandma who likes to climb trees, have grandma climb trees. Whatever your grandma, kids' grandma, and grandpa like to do, have them teach. So teach a class. The second one is to assist in a class. So that's sort of the same thing, but they don't have to plan and everything. They just need to participate in the class. Gives them an extra. It's like when the kids at public schools have not student teachers, substitute teachers. They don't listen to them. But if they have a speaker come in, they listen to them, and all of a sudden they're rapt attention. It's totally different. So if you have a speaker come in and join you with your class, all of a sudden it's like, oh, grandma's teaching, I have to listen, even if they don't necessarily listen well in your homeschool. I don't know if you have trouble with that, but I do. So they can teach a class, they can assist with a class. If this next one is good for if grandparents are not in the vicinity of where you homeschool, so they can't visit, but they can support you monetarily. So if your parents or your husband's or spouse's parents have the money, then you can give them a list of things that you need for your homeschool or would like for your homeschool, and see if they're able to assist you. And of course, nobody is make it clear that it's not required, but just be like, if you wanted to help us out since you can't come to our homeschool to be with us, these are some things we could use that aren't in our budget. These would be some things that would be great for you to provide for our homeschool if you're able. No pressure. So that's another way that grandparents can help with homeschooling. Is there any other way that they can help with homeschooling? So they can be there and do classes. They can help monetarily, and they can be the support. So if you just need them as support, like if you're, especially if you're at a family reunion or some sort of event where you're with family and some of your family is not so supportive of your homeschooling, but your parents are, or your in-laws are, have them kind of back you up, help them with some facts about homeschooling that maybe they could say to kind of, so it doesn't seem like you're the only one who's saying, being defensive about homeschooling. They're like, we support so-and-so's choice to homeschool. We've seen the kids in there, growing up well, and they're really smart and they're socialized and whatever. They can be like verbal support, I guess you would call it. So that's another way that grandparents can be involved in your homeschool. Also, don't forget Grandparents' Day. So this Sunday, September 10th, I don't know if it's every September 10th. I think it's every Sunday, the first Sunday in September, is Grandparents' Day. And so if nothing else, make sure that your kids do something for their grandparents for Grandparents' Day. Today we will be making art and cards for their grandparents. And when their grandparents come visit on the 10th, we're going to be interviewing them with some worksheets that I found from twinkle.ca. I am a brand ambassador for them, but we use them all the time, even before I became an ambassador for them. So twinkle.com if you're in the States, twinkle.co.uk if you're in the UK. If you're in a different country, look at the bottom of twinkle.ca or twinkle.com, and it'll show you how to get to those local websites. And if they do have some free things. Some stuff is most stuff is subscription, but the subscription is very, very cheap. And if you sign up for their newsletter, you get 1 or 2 emails a month that allow you to download a premium resource for free. So I personally think it's worth it anyway, but it's really high quality, great stuff. Anyways, enough of that. So whether you use that or whether you just make up your own interview questions, or interviewing their grandparents about, their childhood, where they grew up, things they like to do, that sort of thing. It's kind of a way to get to know them better. And so grandparents can help also by telling stories. They can also, especially if you're using history and you're learning, more recent history, then, they're learning about the 60s and grandparents were around the 60s, then you can go and you can interview them about life in the 60s. You can, and that's something you could do even if they aren't in person with you, because you could interview them over Facebook, you can interview them over email, you can interview them over phone call, FaceTime, whatever you use to chat with the grandparents. So that's an interesting way that you can help. They can be part of the homeschool if they aren't local to you. Another thing you could do, and these are all just ideas off the top of my head, I didn't write these down, that's why you see me not looking at paper, is grandparents are great for helping if you have little ones. Like, I don't have little ones, but if you have little ones that are running around, toddlers, babies, if they're able to come over, even if it's just one day a week or couple times a month, and just sort of entertain the little ones so you can do more in-depth studies with the older ones, that would be very helpful too. That would have come in handy when I had little ones for sure. And whether they come here or whether you send them to grandma's. But just give them some time so you can work one-on-one with the older one, especially if you have a like say you have a struggling reader and they need extra reading time, like, or extra math time to kind of like catch up on things. Then that would be a good time, like, okay, maybe once a week on Friday mornings the little ones are playing with grandma in the playroom while you work on extra reading help with your reading your struggling reader, that sort of thing. I'm sure there are other ways that grandparents could help, and even if they can't help, you can make sure you include them in homeschool by sending them a newsletter, writing a blog, sharing on Instagram or Facebook, and if they use that, of course. Making sure that the grandparents know what you're doing in the homeschool, so that if somebody talks to them and they're like, oh, they homeschool, and be like, and they ask questions, and they're like, I have no idea what they do, when they do it, what they never tell me anything. You don't want them to say that. So include them in your homeschool. Share once a week somehow what your children are doing. Share work with them. Make artwork to give them, anything to keep them involved in your homeschool. Grandparents are so precious. And if you do not have any grandparents that are still alive for your children, I'm sorry to hear that. And I don't know if you would still be watching this, but I just wanted to point out that if both of the sets of grandparents have passed away, you can still include them in your homeschool by keeping pictures of them around and making sure that you talk about them regularly. So if you're talking about something that their grandpa used to do, you can mention, oh, grandpa used to do this, here's a story about grandpa. Let's look through the photo album or the photos on our computer and see the pictures of, grandpa at that time. So that would be a way that you can include them, make sure that they're not forgotten, and included in your homeschool. Talk about them regularly. So that is it for my ideas. Make sure that you check the playlist below to go check out the other YouTubers who are talking about grandparents and homeschooling. And I will see you in another video. Bye.